Answering questions in food photography or beginner photography Facebook group. What's up YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. On this channel I talk about everything to do with food photography, so if that interests you then click subscribe down below. In this video I'm going to be doing something completely different to my normal style video. I've gone into some food photography Facebook groups and some more beginner photography Facebook groups, and I've gathered a few different questions that I see quite a lot, and I'm going to sit here and answer them for you guys. These are not questions that I was asked directly, they are just questions that I've picked from Facebook groups. These groups are private, so I'm not going to screenshot anything and show you, so no rule breaking here. I have got a few of the questions I see the most written down in my trusty notebook, and I'm going to go through and answer them. These are either questions that I see quite a lot, so they're the ones that are going to help the most of you. If you've asked a lot, some of you might be thinking the same questions, or it's a question that I saw and I thought was a really good question. Also, just a reminder, the answers to these questions are my opinion. Some people may think completely differently, and that is okay. There's no right or wrong to these questions. I'm going to go through and answer the few general photography questions first. So these are the ones that are relevant to all areas of photography really. And the first is something I see all the time. I get asked it all the time, and that is, what camera should I buy? I mean, if I got £1 for every time I saw this question, I would probably be able to buy myself a new camera. The reason that this is not a very good question to ask is it's just way too vague, and the answers to these questions are generally just going to be what cameras people like. And although these may be very good options, they may not be best suited for you. But what I can do is give you a few tips on how to decide exactly what camera you should buy, or how to find some of the best options. What you need to think about first is your budget. Nobody can just know what budget you have. And also a good thing to think about is if this budget is going to include a lens as well, because you can spend an extra few £100s on a camera or an extra few £100s on a really good lens, and the lens is probably going to improve your photography a lot more than a few £100s on a camera will. Now you've got your budget in mind, exactly what you want to spend, I would recommend going onto websites like Wex or B&H and comparing a few of the cameras in your budget and seeing exactly what features each of them have and which ones they don't have. Now we've got an idea of this, make a list of the things that are important to you in a camera and which one of these cameras within your budget has most of the features that you like the look of. And when it comes to buying a camera, just enjoy it as well. Don't stress too much about it because there's not really a bad option out there. The big brands like Nikon or Canon and Sony, they don't make a really bad, disastrous camera, and if they did, a quick Google search could very quickly tell you not to buy it. Every single person is going to be looking for something different in a camera, and a lot of the times you get what you pay for. So the more money you can spend on a camera, it's going to be slightly better than the model below it, and that's just how it goes. So the best thing to do is to look at your budget, decide what you want to spend on a camera, and get the best one you can for that budget. Don't overextend yourself either. Don't pay more than you can afford for your camera, because you're just going to end up stressing yourself out and it's not worth it. There's not that big a difference. So my next question is more of a two-part question, and that is, which is better, Photoshop or Lightroom? Or what's the difference between Photoshop and Lightroom? So the first one, which is better, asking this question is like asking which is better, bread or butter. Well, really, they go very well together, and individually they're great on their own, but they're not the same thing. So now for what's the difference. This could be a whole video on its own, just explaining the difference between Lightroom and Photoshop. So I'm going to kind of quickly sum it up for you. Lightroom is more about organization and cataloging your images along with color grading. So that's kind of bringing in all of your raw files and getting them to look perfect for you. Photoshop is more about manipulation and manipulating those images and the more advanced retouching. So personally, I use both. They both work really well together. I suppose Adobe has created it that way, but some people will only need one. Instead of asking which is better, maybe more look at which one you would use if you could only get one. But again, they're not the same, but both really great pieces of software. So this already feels like it's becoming a very long video, so I'm going to jump in and ask some more food photography related questions now. So let me have a look at my first food photography question. So I think the question that pops up in food photography groups the most, other than what camera should I buy, is probably how much should I charge? And I'm not going to go into that kind of words because just like the camera one, it's too vague of a question. But the question I have here is kind of pricing related. So how should I structure my pricing as a food photographer? Charge by the hour, or per image, or per day rate, so that sort of thing. Most food photographers will charge a flat day rate, and then they'll either have separate line items like editing and usage, or they will build those into their day rate. The latter, building it into your day rate, is very common for smaller businesses because seeing all of these extra fees just throws them right off. So like I said, this is used for most food photographers, but some will charge per image or per dish. The only reason I personally wouldn't recommend this is because it's one dish or one image may take a lot longer to create than another. So obviously you have to think about how long each will take you, and charging more for one and less for another can confuse clients as well. I would not recommend charging by the hour, although it's a very common pricing structure in a lot of other areas of photography. Food photographers, I wouldn't recommend charging by the hour because clients or restaurants, they will try to cram a lot into a very short amount of time, and they start to get unrealistic expectations of you, and I just would not go there. The people that want to charge you by the hour are people that probably want to charge you very little or not enough for your photography. My next question is sort of related to that, and that is how many hours is included in a day for your day rate? I thought this was a really good question. I've not personally thought about it much, I just kind of went with what's quite standard. If I'm in my studio, I would normally say 10 hours. If I was going on to location, I would usually say about 8 hours. But the most important thing is I always include that information when I'm writing up a quote for a potential client. So I will have per day, and then in brackets I will have 8 hours or 10 hours. This for me just feels quite standard, and it gives you enough time to have an hour lunch break in between, which I don't charge for, and it gives that extra time during the day. This may be slightly different for everybody because it's up to you what you work in a day. The most important thing is you just let people know. They're not going to assume you're going to be there for 10 hours when in your mind you're going to be there for 6 hours. There's a lot of talking in this video. So my next question I have here is, what are your favourite resources for food photography inspiration? Another great question. As you've probably seen in a few of my videos, I get a lot of my inspiration from Pinterest. It's just a great place to go. You've got so many great images all in one space, and it's super quick. It's one of the main reasons that I will show this in videos because it's quite quick to show a lot of inspiration. Another thing similar to Pinterest would be Instagram. I mean, searching for tags and things like that. But off the internet, a few places I look at are sort of food magazines, and these can even be the free ones at like the front, like next to the tills in things like Tesco's and Waitrose. These are British shops. I'm not sure if American supermarkets do them as well, so maybe someone let me know in the comments. But these are really great. They're free. You can just pick them up, and they're usually quite seasonal as well, which obviously can give some really good seasonal inspiration for your food photographies, along with some nice recipes. Other things like these would be the ones that you buy, the nice fancy glossy magazines. And also I like to look through recipe or cookbooks for food photography inspiration. These always have some really nice set out images. Someone has been paid to do them as well, so you know they're going to be really good quality images. Another thing I like to look at, and it may seem quite random, but when I am walking in a supermarket and there's the shelves with all the food on, I'll look at their photos either on the packets or on their advertisements, because again, someone has paid quite a lot of money to have them there, so this is what brands are looking to purchase from photographers. Sometimes when you're on Instagram or Pinterest, these are more personal projects. It's a good idea if you want to work with brands to take a look at what they're paying photographers to do. That's all for the questions. I did have more written down, but I feel like this video is getting quite long already. So maybe I'll do a part 2 of this video if you like it. And if you do have any questions yourself, let me know in the comments below and I'll answer those. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!